Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're taking a look at the works of Patrick O'Brian and more importantly how to read and enjoy them in 2025. So sit back, relax and let's get to it. So firstly, why do I love this series? Well, when I was a boy, I was given my dad's Hornblower books and he said to me, look, you really want to go and give these a read. They're a fantastic story. Make sure you read them in order from when he was a midshipman right up to Lord Hornblower. And he had them in the fantastic Penguin editions. And I did read them and I was hooked after the first book, in all honesty. And I worked my way right through them. And I absolutely love them. And since then, I've never really come across another naval author that really hooked me as much as those original C.S. Forester books, when I was growing up. So since then, I've sampled pretty much all the naval fiction authors that have been out there, people like Julian Stockwin, who lives actually quite close to me. And I did some events with Julian in the early 2000s. He did a series called the Thomas Kidd series, which focuses on historically accurate, one of three pressed men. So they're pressed into service and made it right the way through the ranks to admiral. So that actually happened in real life 3 times. So that's sort of Thomas Kidd, that's his sort of story. I've tried some of the other more popular ones like Alexander Kent and Douglas Reman, and none of them have really quite sort of scratched that itch for me the same way that Forester did when I was growing up. But then I came across Patrick O'Brian. Now, I sort of had been recommended him. He was a highly collectible author, and I knew he was somebody who I should be picking up because the books were highly regarded, but I'd never really sort of decided to read it. There was already a lot of books out by the time I picked up the first one, Master and Commander. And in the end, there was 20 books, and they follow the lives and careers of Jack Aubrey and Dr. Stephen Maturin. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on today, because that is an absolutely amazing series. And in all honesty, the only series that's come close to bringing back the excitement in naval fiction that I had as a boy reading those C.S. Forester books. So when the series opens in Master and Commander, Jack Aubrey isn't actually a captain. He's sort of a commander waiting to be made post-captain, like an official captain. And he's at a concert on land when he realises he's sat next to Dr. Stephen Maturin, and Jack Aubrey's there tapping to this classical piece that's being played in front of them, and he's completely out of sync, and it manages to rile up Stephen Maturin so much that he has to say something. And it's from that unlikely meeting, that the two strike up a bit of a friendship. Jack invites him to breakfast the next day, finds out a little bit more about him, that he's actually a surgeon, and says, well, look, I've just got this new commission. Why don't you come on board and be the ship's surgeon? And that's sort of the start of their, massive adventures over this huge series of books. Now, the series begins in 1800 during the Napoleonic Wars. Now, O'Brian has expressed some regret that he started the series at that point because he never goes back. He never goes and concentrates an entire novel on Jack Aubrey's earlier career. So we refer to him, in certain books. Jack Aubrey says, oh yeah, when I was a midshipman on such and such a ship, but we never have any adventures set in that time. Now, Forester was the same. He started the series as Captain Hornblower. Hornblower was already a captain, but he took the time to go back once the series was established to chronicle Hornblower's early life. And sadly, Patrick O'Brian never did that. So the series starts in 1800 with Jack Aubrey just on the verge of becoming a proper captain, a post-captain, and then works its way through chronologically. And there are no novels set prior to that period in time. So it does follow it chronologically. It also mirrors historical events very, very accurately. So O'Brian studied the period. He was, you could say, an expert on it. And lots of the events and actions that happen in the books are based on real events and actions that did happen in history. It's fantastic to see those sort of parallels. I really like that part of the series. So as the series progresses, Jack, obviously in the first book, he's not quite a captain yet, but come the second book called Post Captain, he's made an official captain, as it were. He's in post. And throughout the series, we slowly see Jack's progression through the ranks. Stephen Maturin, however, he is the ship's surgeon. He's not following a career path per se. He accompanies Jack right around the world, and he uses this opportunity to not experiment, but he certainly performs some interesting surgical procedures, shall we say, on injured members of crew. He does it on exotic animals. So when they're traveling the globe, Stephen is always the first to try and get on land in a strange country and discover the wildlife. He collects samples, and there's often all sorts of things hanging around in the surgeon's quarters, as it were. It's really quite interesting. The other side of it, of course, is he is also an intelligence agent, and that part of it is very subtly introduced layer by layer as the books go on. And Jack seems to turn a bit of a blind eye to Stephen's interests, from an intelligent agent's point of view. But when they do come back to shore, documents are being sent back to the UK, and I find that part also really, really fascinating. So the first book, Master and Commander, was published in 1969. Now, there is some speculation that just a few years prior to that, Forster himself had passed away, and there was a gap in the market for a really good naval fiction series. And there is talk that perhaps maybe O'Brien's agent, because he'd written lots of books prior to this, had suggested, well, why don't you do a naval series? You're interested in that sort of subject. You could be classed as an expert. Why don't you do a series sort of based on that? And there are a couple of earlier books in O'Brien's career where it does seem as if he is testing out the two roles, the captain and Stephen Maturin, almost like as a template for what was to come later on, which is quite interesting. So Master and Commander came out, and in the next 4 years, he did the next two books. But then that was it. I mean, literally, it's almost like the series stopped, and there was a gap of about 4 years, and then a book came out every single year right up until O'Brien's death in 2000. The series still wasn't a massive success until it was relaunched in the early 1990s in America. Now, for whatever reason, I think there was someone who was massively a fan of them. They were hugely advertised, hugely popular, and suddenly, almost overnight, O'Brien became a massive sensation, both sides of the Atlantic. And then from right there until his death, every single book was a major publishing sensation. O'Brien himself visited the States, he did a few talks, and he was a massive, massive author. Such a shame that it came so late in his life, but he did get to see almost a decade of being, I guess, a superstar author. Someone you could consider was, in his field, as big as somebody like Stephen King is in horror. Absolutely enormous. So at this point, Patrick O'Brian had sadly passed away. And around this time, HarperCollins had started to release these beautiful uniform B-format paperbacks, and I was selling them in my shop at the time, and I thought, oh, these are really nice. I'm going to pick up this series because I read them before. I can't remember what editions they were, but they weren't these particular ones. And I thought, these are really nice. They're uniform. They list the whole series on the back. These are the ones I'm going to work my way through. And because he passed away, I vowed to just read one a year going forward, and I really savoured them like a fine wine, and that's exactly what I did. So I just read, each time I went on holiday, I'd take one book with me, and I just read them. I got to book 7 or 8, and for whatever reason, I just sort of stopped. They sort of fell off the radar. I had other books that I read in my to-be-read pile, and you know what it's like. Something else comes along and you need to read that. So I just sort of stopped reading them until recently. So a few months back, I picked up the first one again. I thought, I really fancy reading these again. I've been talking about this series with my dad because he, like me, had started reading the first few. I said, well, I'm going to restart reading them. I'll pass them to you as I get through them. So he said, yeah, all right. And that was it. I was absolutely hooked again. And I thought, well, it's been ages since I've sort of researched these online. What else can I find, online that might help and enhance me to enjoy these books even more? And lo and behold, I did find a couple of fantastic resources. And I also found, as well as those beautiful paperbacks, another superb series where they were all reprinted in beautiful hardbacks, and that was by the Folio Society. So once again, we'll have a look at those ones now. So this is a look at the HarperCollins B-format paperbacks, and I did check this, and as I said, I bought these when they were published, and this first paperback was 2002, so it was actually a year or two after Patrick O'Brian himself had passed away. Each book features a beautiful cover like that, and just bleeds over onto the spine, and then they've got them all listed there 1 to 20 on the back there. There's Patrick himself. There was a 21st book which was unfinished at the time of his death, and Collins did release that one in an oversized hardback, which I used to have, but I, for the life of me, cannot put my hand on it at the moment. So I didn't get all of these. I've got the first 16, so I've actually got the last 4 still to get. But these are very, very easy to pick up on places like eBay, and you can get them in job lots. So if you're looking for a value way to do it, on a budget, as it were. That's the way. Just look for these beautiful uniform editions in job lots on eBay and you won't go far wrong. But I'll show you all the ones that I've got anyway, so you get to see what they're like. And they do make a really, really attractive set. And each book on the back there, you can see is like little highlighted there. Shows which place it is in the series. But yeah, these are great editions, and they do look absolutely fantastic. Even the spines do, and we'll have a look at the spine artwork in a minute, because they make such an attractive set on the shelf as well. So I didn't quite get them all, but I'm only missing the last 4, which I shall definitely now try to pick up, because these are really good additions to take with you if you are travelling. And there we are, that's the last one. I've got the Wine Dark Sea. Let me just show you those beautiful spines in order. So there they are, spine out, and as you can see, don't they look a fantastic series? And these will look beautiful on your shelves. So as I said, this is the way to get them if you're on a budget and you just want to enjoy the stories for what they are and read the physical books. These are the ones I wholeheartedly recommend. They're just a beautiful, beautiful series. Now, a really luxurious way to enjoy these books is in these incredible Folio Society editions. Now, these hardbacks were started to be published in 2009. It took the Folio Society, I think, about 4 years to publish all 20 books, which they did. And they make these beautiful uniform set. I mean, they're all sort of in the naval blue colours, and they are absolutely fantastic. So if I show you, I've only got 6. What I've been doing is trying to buy like 1 a month or so, but they are pricey, they are collectible, and I only want the first prints of them, because some of these books were actually reprinted. So if you're looking to pick up this set, do take care that you are buying the first, if that's something that you're interested in. But if we have a look at the first book in the series here, so they all come slipcased, and they do have unique jackets here. And the first one has an introduction to the series by Max Hastings. Now, Max Hastings is someone I really enjoy as a historical writer, but he doesn't really add much new to the series here. Let me make a little bit more room. Yeah, it's just really like a primer for the whole sort of series. Now, the books have illustrated end papers, and they show on the whole where the action within each particular book takes place. But unlike the online maps, it doesn't show you all the different ports and stuff that O'Brien was to stop him. Now, one of the features of the Folio Society books is that they're filled with illustrations, and the illustrations do tie in to the actual book. So remember, I said in the first book, Jack Aubrey and Maturin first meet at a concert on land, and there's just an example of a concert, and the ships and things like that. I mean, obviously all the different nautical terms are accurate, and you feel by the end of the second or third book that you could be on board ship yourself and know where to go. You'll know where the topsail to gallants exactly are, But yeah, so the actual illustrations throughout, and there's usually 3 sections in each book, do complement the text that you are actually reading. They do tie in. They're not just random things. They tie into what's actually happening in the story. There's a bit in Post Captain, for example, which I always raised my eyebrows about ever since I first read it, where Jack is being led almost on a lead, disguised as a bear by Stephen Maturin to evade capture. And I thought that's so far-fetched. It really, really was, and I thought that again, reading it recently, until I think it's in this book, you actually see such a thing did actually occur. And once again, this is an example of Patrick O'Brien using actual history in his stories. And let's see if we can actually find that bit, because there was a picture of, there we are, look. I don't know, it still seems a little bit far-fetched to me, but there with a little quote there. "What, oh, the bear," cried a sailor. "Can he dance, mate?" And Maturin pokes Jack Aubrey, who's in basically the skin of a bear, and gets him to do some dancing. So I don't know. Even now I still think it's a bit far-fetched, but that was based on an event in history. So there you go. But as I said, they're very, very handsome editions, but they're not cheap. So even if you get lucky, they're still going to cost you between £35 and £45 per book, and unfortunately some of the later ones are sort of up around the £80 to £100. So it's something that is a bit of a project over the coming months. The earlier books are definitely easier to get, but I would very much try to get the first prints if you can, because I just think they make a better investment. And some of the early books were reprinted 2 or 3 times, so it's worth holding out, being patient, and if you want to get this beautiful set, I recommend it, because they are, as you can see, beautiful. One thing I've not done since I've gone back to the books is watch the Russell Crowe, Paul Bettany 2003 movie. Now, that was titled Master and Commander, and it was actually made up of the first book and the 11th book. And I absolutely loved it at the time. I really did, much as I enjoyed the Hornblower TV series. But I guess it just wasn't financially successful enough for them to go back to do sequels based on any of the other books. But I think that particular series is absolutely ripe for a TV adaptation. So if anyone's watching this and they're looking for a new property, grab the rights to a TV adaptation of the 20-book Jack Aubrey, Stephen Maturin series, because wow, what a series that would make. And nowadays, of course, much easier to do, the close-up shit work and things like that with CGI. So I think it would be absolutely fantastic. So the original hardback first editions, I've never really tried to collect. I've had a few through my hands over the years. I think the earliest was HMS Surprise, which is the 3rd one in hardback first, and one or two of the later ones. The thing is, because they were published over this period of 69 to 2000, 3 decades, they don't look very uniform on the shelf. It's a good exercise in seeing how, dust wrapper cover design has changed over that period of time. But they never really appealed to me in the same way that the Hornblower books did. I loved them so much, I made a point of picking the entire run-up in original first edition hardback, and that's not an easy task. Some of them are very tricky. But the same with the Patrick O'Brien's. There are some books that are in the several hundreds of pounds range, and quite often, if you are fancying trying to put a set together, save yourself an awful lot of bother and try and find someone who's already put a nice run together, a full set, and buy them that way. But they're not going to be cheap, let's put it that way. But there are a couple of other ways and a couple of other sets I absolutely enjoy, and that's that paperback set from HarperCollins, and of course the beautiful Folio Society set, which started in 2009. Now, this time round, as I work my way through the series, there are some online resources that I would very much recommend, because it really enhances your enjoyment of the series. So we'll go through those now. So firstly, there's a great Patrick O'Brian podcast. It's called The Lubber's Hole. Now, this one started during lockdown back in 2020, and the hosts, Ian and Mike, work their way through the entire series in detail, with a mix of guests along the way. Most books get about 4 episodes of the podcast each, and I enjoy listening to these after I've read each book. From the 3rd book, HMS Surprise, the series really does go to another level with their attention to detail. They're set in and around actual historical events of the time, so the hosts research these events and help put the books into accurate historical context. The podcast ended in 2024 after they comprehensively covered the entire series. Another resource I would recommend is the Patrick O'Brian Mapping Project. Now, this site is a handy companion for when you're reading each book to quickly see at a glance where in the world the action is actually taking place. It's also been optimized for mobile, so it's well worth bookmarking on your phone for easy access. You can also enjoy these books in audio form as well. So nowadays, Spotify offers 2 free audiobooks a month as part of a subscription. So all the O'Briens are available on the platform and are expertly read by Robert Hardy. However, those versions are abridged, so do bear that in mind, and they only come in at about 4 to 5 hours apiece. Unabridged audio versions do exist, with the entire series being read by Patrick Tull. These are a lot harder to track down, but I have been able to find them with some digging online. So if you're looking for a new series to get completely immersed in, I can wholeheartedly recommend the Jack Aubrey, Stephen Maturin series from Patrick O'Brian. There's bits in every single book that I promise will stay with you for the rest of your life. They just are that memorable. And there's a couple of options there to collect, some very reasonably priced, or some a bit more expensive but beautiful editions that will look fantastic on your shelf. Do let me know in the comments down below if you've started this series, and if you can recommend any other great resources online to enhance your enjoyment of this amazing series. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that little look at the Patrick O'Brian Jack Aubrey series. certainly very, very rewarding, and I just completely recommend it. If you've enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you're not already for regular book related content, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.